Welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast. Just talked a little bit about Cincinnati. Gonna switch gears, stay in the Big 12 though, and talk a little bit about Utah and what their upcoming season could look like. Had a tough season last year. We're expected to be kind of Big 12 contenders. I had quarterback issues throughout the year, started multiple guys, so was not the season that Utah was expecting or hoping for. But they're hoping to bounce back this upcoming season, and I think they have the roster to really make a jump back up into contention for the Big 12. At quarterback, the big story here is Cam Rising officially gone out of eligibility. Had been there. It seems like he had been there for like 8 years, but had only been there for 4 or 5. Led them to consecutive Pac-12 championships, kind of was one of the main players throughout program history, one of the most successful. That's going to be a big hole, big gap to fill, but there's going to be a couple guys. So the big name here is Devon Dampier, transferring in from New Mexico. This was kind of their big target at the quarterback position. Projected starter. I would be kind of surprised if he does not start. Had 2,700 passing yards last season, as well as 1,200 rushing yards. First team All-Mountain West quarterback. Just the dual threat capability. And he's also pretty familiar with new offensive coordinator Jason Beck and his system. So the dual threat ability, the familiarity, just the pedigree, this should be the guy at quarterback for them. Backing up Dampier, probably going to be Brendan Zerberg is going to be the primary backup. He was an Oklahoma transfer, redshirt freshman, but he kind of had a really great high school career, didn't play at all at Oklahoma, had over 2,300 pass yards, over 1,000 rush yards as a senior in high school, probably going to be the main backup. Another guy to look at, Nate Johnson is back, former Utah quarterback, left Utah to go to Vanderbilt, left Vanderbilt to come back to Utah. So Nate Johnson, though, he might switch positions. He's a really athletic guy. Could have multiple roles for Utah this upcoming year at quarterback, wide receiver, running back as well. Just he might be kind of the Braxton Miller type guy where they switch positions about 2 or 3 years in their college career. I could see that for Nate Johnson. Really athletic dude, though. And he's probably going to play at some point across the board for Utah. Don't know really where, but going to be a guy that will play for them. Isaac Wilson, younger brother of Zach Wilson, is also there. Did play a decent chunk last season for Utah, but he's probably going to redshirt this year. Just with the quarterbacks coming in, with not as many injuries, shouldn't really be a name to look out for this season. Running back wise, Wayshawn Parker, that's going to be your main guy. It looks like this season. Coming in from Washington State, had 700 rushing yards last season, 4 touchdowns, only had 130 carries, so still had a pretty solid yards per carry average. Had 11 catches, 100 yards, receiving touchdown. In Washington's shoot and run kind of offense, but this is a bruising coach, bruising running style. 5'10", 210 about, so compact frame, and he's probably going to be the leader in the backfield there. Naquari Rogers is another guy that could be in the mix, from New Mexico, also kind of has that familiarity from Jason Beck's scheme, as well as that rapport with Devon Dampier. Those are going to be assets. He's got a little bit of pass catching experience as well. 25 receptions over 2 seasons at Campbell. So another guy that could kind of mix in there. And then Daniel Berry's a freshman who could be a change of pace guy. The big thing here is his speed. Ran a 10.38 100-meter dash in high school and averaged over 8.5 yards per carry as a senior. So could be a guy that gets a role just because of his speed. Pass catching wise. Wide receiver is a really big question mark here. Not a ton of guys. Dorian Singer's also gone. Otto Tia, Justin Stevenson, Creed Whittemore, they're all kind of names to watch for playing time here. But this is a spot where it's going to be determined in camp and probably in the early weeks of the season who actually ends up playing, who gets catches and targets for Utah is going to be a big question mark. Tight end's a little more kind of set. Landon King should be the starter there. Had a rough season last year. Had some conditioning issues. And then also the quarterback instability. Never really got going. But had a really strong 2023 season. So King is trying to get back to that kind of 2023 performance and level of expectation. But he's expected to be kind of the main guy. Should be a key player in the system. And a key target for Devon Dampier. Dallin Bentley, also going to be another guy. He played in all 12 games last year. Not a ton of stats-based info for Dallin Bentley, but still reliable, able to move well throughout the scheme. That's going to be a guy to look at. Offensive line, this is going to be a really big strength for Utah. They're going to return all 5 starters this season. Spencer Fano, that's the big name. First team All-American this past season by PFF. Started 24 of 25 career games. He's going to go back to the right side of the line, play right tackle there. Kind of had to move a little bit, but right side is his natural side, natural position. So that's going to be a really big name and returning starter for them. Jaron Kump, also going to be a guy to look at, most seasoned player, 47 career games, 29 starts, and last member of the 2018 recruiting class, which is unbelievable that he has that many years of eligibility. Pretty crazy. But probably going to be the center, most experienced guy, going to be a good voice there. Caleb Lomu started every game at left tackle last season. Going to be a guy to look out for as in year 2 as a starter at that spot. Tanoa Togiai is going to be left guard most likely. He played 10 games last year. And then Michael Mokafisi also has played 37 games, 33 career starts. Going to be another guy. He kind of had some injury setbacks last season, but should be back right on that line. This is going to be a really strong unit for Utah. And I think a lot of their success on the offensive side of the ball will be based on what these guys can do. D-line is kind of going to be an interesting spot for them. Van Fillinger, Connor O'Toole are both gone. So this is going to be a younger group. A lot of promise, though. A place where they're looking for guys to step in at that role. Logan Fano is going to be the sole upperclassman. He's the sole upperclassman among defensive ends, which I thought was really interesting. He's going to be the leader of this group. Had a torn ACL in 2023, but played all 12 games last season. 35 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, a couple different other stats, but going to be the main guy. Paul Fitzgerald is another guy to look at here. Transferred him from Utah State. Had a really strong 2023 season, but didn't really play that much in 2024. So we'll see how this kind of shakes out, but could be a guy that gets probably the first crack at that starting DN role just because of his previous production at Utah State in that 23 season. John Henry Daly is another guy, BYU transfer, played in the last 7 games of last season, had 3 tackles in the season finale against UCF. Could be another guy that's kind of rising. Jackson Jones, another guy. And then D-tackle wise, Dallas Vakalahi is going to be probably the next guy up. You know, Utah's got a long history of defensive tackles. Is going to be a true sophomore. Played in 9 games as a true freshman. Started 3 of them. Led all Utah freshmen with 16 total tackles. had 5.5 third down stops. This is going to be the next guy up to look for. But another veteran presence as Aliki Vimahi, veteran of the group. He's a senior. By the end of his sophomore game, by the end of his sophomore year, he'd already started 11 total games. Since then, he's started in 2 games over the last 2 years, so hasn't played a lot. Only played 4 games during the 2024 season, but because of that, he took advantage of his red shirt. He redshirted last season, so this is going to be a guy that is the veteran on that defensive line and probably going to be one of the main guys at defensive tackle for them. Linebacker, again, this is going to be a really great unit for Utah. Pretty established line. So Levani Damuni, he's transferring in from Stanford, he did transfer in from Stanford. Had an immediate impact 2023, had 87 tackles, and then he was hurt for pretty much all last season, had a lower leg injury, but expected to come back and kind of reclaim that mantle, that position of being at the top of that linebacker unit. Lander Barton, this is going to be another guy, was 2022 Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, had an injury in 2023, but played all 12 games last season, had 72 tackles, defended 6 passes, had 2 interceptions, had a fumble recovery. This is going to be a really strong linebacker for Utah to kind of look out for. Then Jonathan Hall's another guy, former safety who converted down, but really aggressive player, 39 tackles, had a sack, had an interception, multiple pass breakups. He should be kind of the main guy when Utah is in 3 linebacker sets. Trey Reynolds is going to be another guy that could kind of rotate in after coming back and playing all 12 games last season. Could be another guy that kind of rotates in. Defensive back wise, safety's really the key spot here. Tao Johnson, probably the most talented guy, has 23 starts in 30 career games, has played both safety and nickel cornerback, so probably the most athletic player on the roster. Had 70 tackles last season, 5 pass breakups, scored a touchdown on a blocked field goal against Baylor. So just a really versatile playmaker, able to kind of move across positions. Rabbit Evans, probably going to be another guy, started 5 games last season after transferring in from Blinn. And then Nate Ritchie could be another dude to look at here. Schedule-wise, I think Arizona State, they have at home October 11th. They have to go play at BYU, at Provo this season. That's going to be a tough matchup. Then they have to go to Colorado. So this October stretch of Arizona State, at BYU, Colorado, and then Cincinnati, I think could be kind of tough for them. Kansas State is going to be another game. They do have Kansas State at home. And then they have to go to UCLA week 1. I think that's going to be kind of an interesting matchup there. So it's going to be an interesting year for Utah. I think they have a really wide range in terms of how they can do in 2025. I think they can be anywhere from a 4-8, 5-7 team to a 9-3 team. It just kind of depends on how those Big 12 games kind of shake out, in my opinion, and what goes on. The Big 12 is kind of volatile, in my opinion. I think those games are always almost a toss-up. So just depending on if they get that right call in the last minute of a really close Big 12 game or not, I think could change how their season looks. Right now, we're going to take our last break of the show. When we come back, going to talk a little bit about some of the guys that could be options to replace Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee. So we're going to take our last break, and we'll be back shortly on the GSMC College Football Podcast.